Join us this evening. I'm Joni Menard. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, and I'm very excited to have a lot of our representatives from our district math curriculum review team here tonight. Tonight is going to consist of many things, and let me just kind of give you a brief overview of what you're going to hear tonight. So James, who's our pre-K through 12 plus STEM coordinator, is going to be talking to us about the math curriculum review process. We're going to be talking about the timeline for the curriculum review process, the team's vision of math instruction in Holliston, how the math curricular resource should be tied directly to our vision of a graduate as well as our strategic plan. Each school is going to be talking about the piloting process they have done at each school in math. We'll be talking about the current courses offered at the high school. And then we'll have a process if you have questions, and then also how to access our math survey if you have not done so already. And tonight we're not going to be specifically talking about leveling, as the committee has been actively beginning the process of research and leveling, but we'd love to hear your questions regarding leveling in either through our survey or the questioning comments we're going to have in the back at the end, and I'll explain that later, as well as in public comment. So at 7:30 we will conclude, and then you will have time to record some comments in the back, and I'll explain that later. Please note that the presentation is being recorded, so we're going to be reviewing the recording afterwards and finding those common themes that you're saying during public comment, and that will drive kind of some of our next steps. Okay, so I'm going to introduce James Lavasser, who is our pre-K through 12 plus STEM District Curriculum Coordinator.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off by giving a brief overview on the process and what we've done so far. This team was put together, I think there's 22 members of the team, which I'll show you in a second, was put together in November of 2022. Here's the list of members in the team. You'll see it's pretty extensive, actually. So there's members from all schools. There's representatives from French immersion, from pre-K, all the way up through high school. There's administrators on the team as well. In December through February, we created our vision, which I'll share with you in a minute, and what that vision looks like in the classroom. Then March through June, we evaluated our current curriculum, looking at gaps in the standards and what's covered at what level. At each level, we identified resources needed for improvement. We utilized DESE's Curate and Ed reports, which basically evaluate other curricula that are available. We looked at data from neighboring districts to narrow down curricular resources. There's tons of curricular resources out there for math, tons, and they've all been reviewed by DESE. And so we looked at the reviews at DESE and looked at our vision and tried to narrow down out of the hundreds down to a handful that we could then look into more detail, get more information, and eventually pilot. This year, from September through March, we're piloting and then hopefully eventually recommending resources. This is where we currently are. In September 2024, we hope to implement and support teachers in implementation of whatever resources that we decide to use. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just a roadmap that shows the same information, a visual here. You can see October to December, all the way through September 2024 and ongoing, which is the implementation process. This PowerPoint presentation will also be shared on the district website, correct? Mm-hmm. So if you want to go look at it in more detail. Some of the stuff here I'm going to go through pretty quickly. So our vision of mathematics instruction in Holliston Public Schools, I bulleted some points here so I don't have to read the whole thing. The Holliston Public Schools mathematics vision supports our district's vision of a graduate and strategic plan. Some key aspects of the vision: all students are mathematically proficient and prepared to meet the demands of their post-secondary plans. Focused on the current Massachusetts state mathematics curriculum frameworks, promotes consistent and effective vertical alignment pre-K through 12 plus, providing a foundation for rigorous high-order learning opportunities for all students, rely on regular collaborative data-informed decision-making amongst all educators, authentic performance-based assessment that develops problem-solving, critical thinking, and meaning-making, reflect culturally responsive teaching practices with inclusive learning partnerships, practices, and classroom communities. We further broke that down to kind of see what that would look like in the classroom, and you'll see a vision of a graduate here with innovative thinker, character, and I'm not going to read through all those. This will be available again on the district website. lifelong learner, effective communicator, global citizen, and balanced life. And now, Ashley will talk a little bit about what's been going on specifically. We'll go through each school now. We'll look at the elementary schools, then we'll look at middle school, and then the high school. So Ashley will talk here about elementary schools.
So I'm Ashley Bouchard. I'm the math specialist coach at both Miller and Placentino. We have an awesome group of teachers that are piloting Eureka Math Squared and iReady Math. We've had positive feedback from students, positive feedback from families that are of the classrooms that are doing both of these curriculums. We brought in professionals to provide PD for the teachers to support them as they're trying out the new curriculum and to ask any questions. And both of these programs not only are rigorous, but they also are well balanced around the math practices and really getting students to engage in math discourse and talking about the math and getting dirty and hands-on as opposed to rote and like heavy problems. It's challenging, but it's accessible to all students. So the teachers are really enjoying both of the programs. Students are enjoying both of the programs. They both also will have a French component offered and available. That was one of the key areas we were looking into to make sure it would support our French immersion classrooms. But all in all, it's been a great pilot. And I think teachers are rating the programs now, and we're going to get together and discuss a little more. Eureka Math Squared and iReady, both awesome. iReady does have a diagnostic piece to it for both ELA and math, where students take a diagnostic, it pinpoints where they are, and then it provides enrichment support. So your higher level students will get pushed and accelerated, and it'll also give a pathway that will meet your students who are struggling to fill in those gaps and help with enrichment that way as well. So that's a really nice component of iReady. And all in all, anything else to add, Linz?
No. Can you talk a little bit about the process of using the DESE rubric to kind of evaluate the pilots?
Yep. So James and I looked at the DESE rubric. So that, James, I'll let you elaborate more on that.
So DESE has a rubric to identify high-quality instructional materials, and they use it on all the ones that I was mentioning that they've rated. They also provide it for you to rate your current curriculum and then to look at any curricular options that you're looking to pursue. And so we took that and simplified it a little bit and then put it into Google Forms so teachers could actually fill out and rate each of the curricula. And that's one of the aspects we're going to use to evaluate these three.
As well as teacher feedback,
Yep.
student feedback,
Yep.
family feedback, all the feedback, which has been great so far.
And can you mention a little bit, just say Envision, what was done with it, Envision?
For Envision, we've been using Envision. James can speak more to
Since
the
I started.
history.
Yes, for years. We've been using Envision for a while.
For years. So we've had also professionals from Envision come and provide PD and support for our teachers through Envision. They have a new 2023 platform, but the only change is online. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same.
So when we adopted that at the elementary schools, I don't know if there was enough PD available, so we wanted to make sure that we were giving full opportunity to really dive into that as well, and we weren't just pushing it aside because we didn't have the proper training in it. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the Envision curriculum was purchased right before the pandemic? Even before that?
We had Envision probably 6 years ago. It was before the pandemic. And then when we came to the pandemic, they had a new online component, so that's why we stuck with it, because it was accessible to students at home. But one of the things was we did not get the PD that went along with it because we were in the middle of the pandemic. So that's why we wanted to bring in the professionals from Envision to do the PD for our current teachers who were using it in a part of this pilot, so that we could truly rank it along with the other two programs. Sorry, I'm Dave Keim, Principal Miller.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, so Casey Conan's going to talk about. Sorry.
Was it the comparing all three, or were there three different meetings?
I'm sorry, I actually.
There were three things here. Just a competition of the three.
Yes.
Yeah, so they narrowed it down. They looked at all the math curriculums.
For
and they,
K to 5.
For K to 5 with French immersion piece to it, and narrowed it down to see which programs would be best for Holliston. And then from that, we looked at Eureka Math Squared, Envision, and iReady, and are comparing the three. So we have a teacher in each grade level who's looking at those curriculums with a critical lens, and then coming together to talk about them and how they're the same different.
And so we're also looking at through, you were talking about different lenses, French immersion, but we're also looking at through English learner lens, special ed lens, differentiation, so we'd be able to meet all learners' needs. So all of those things are being considered as the teachers are evaluating each program.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, Casey is going to talk about RAMS.
Sure. Hi, I'm Casey Conahan, and I am the Curriculum and Instruction Specialist for the building. And I actually want to do my next slide first. I've swapped it in my brain. Okay. So at the start of the year, we kind of separate from the curriculum review process, but still related to curriculum and content and RAMS, is we've been piloting IXL, which is for both math and English, and it's a personalized progress monitoring tool that basically assesses students and can then give them targeted, individualized practice around content and skills based on their strengths and areas for improvement. And then as students continue to practice those skills, it is constantly recalibrating to measure their growth and let teachers know where students have met standards and where they still need practice. It's also tiered in that each standard is kind of looked at 3 different levels. So you go in at an entry level with the standard, and you might get the kind of basic components of it. And as you consistently perform well at that level, it will up its challenge for you to a second tier, and then it continues to a third tier to provide more depth and challenge within certain standards. And so teachers have been really immersed in a lot of PD and practice with that in both math and ELA. And it's providing teachers feedback on student learning and informing instructional choices. What's nice about IXL is that it completely aligns to the Massachusetts state standards. And so while it lists all the skills and content in order of kind of units or chapters that we might see in a textbook, you can also change your view to organize it by the standards per grade level and the categories in the standards. What's also nice is that they've aligned it to numerous high-quality instructional materials, those same textbooks that DESE is pushing out through its review process to say these are quality materials that we would like to see in our schools. And so IXL has aligned its content with that, so you can then go into, say, the textbook you're using, click on that and the grade level, and it will reshuffle the skills to align with that textbook, so that if you are following a sequence there, it's easily setting that up for teachers and how to accommodate where students are in their learning and the way teachers are organizing their instruction. So we've been really immersed in that at RAMS for since September, which then kind of ties into the next piece, and I'll do my first slide, which is where we're then going to launch our pilot with Reveal after the break. Teachers are getting online access, and hopefully before the break those books will come so that they can start diving into the content, and they'll be launching some pilot units and chapters after the break to test out the content, the organization of it, checking to see that it's differentiated for both support and rigor, and checking out how to use the online component as well. That online component is really just the textbook online, and there's student workbooks. Our goal in kind of choosing Reveal is to also collaborate with the high school. They've been piloting Reveal along with Envision as well. But we kind of liked Reveal in terms of what it could do for the middle school. So our hope is that should that be a common decision, we could really work to align with that transition from 8 to 9. And so that's where we are at RAMS. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. All right, so I think Ann and Bob are going to talk a little bit about the process at the high school.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Bob Tivian. I'm the math department leader at the high school. Months ago, we started to look at various curricula in math at the high school, and we narrowed it down to the 2 that we just spoke about, Reveal and Envision. And at the high school, this has been an interesting year. We've had 5 new math teachers at the high school, so we're sorting that out, and we're just basically making sure that we are, trying to balance the pilot program with, getting onboarding our new teachers. So while we're doing that, we had our teachers split. Some of the teachers have been using the Envision curriculum, and some have been using the Reveal curriculum. As time has gone on over the semester, we've all pretty much come to a consensus that Reveal seems to be the better product for us. So we are looking to transition to semester 2, piloting only Reveal and in narrowing it down to that. So as Casey said, it has online components, it has remediation, companion workbooks, enrichment, and lots of assessment tools. I'm going to ask Anne to talk a little bit about her experience, just your experience using it, because I actually don't teach Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, which is what these 2 pilots cover, and Anne has more experience doing that.
Good evening, Ann Canoni, math teacher at Holliston High School. So this has been my passion for a couple of years, and I really started, this has been a long time coming, especially at the high school, for getting new curriculum. We're all really excited about it. When I think about some of the math books that we've been using over the years and the problems we have in it, going back to the quarterbacks there from Miami, and we're talking about DVDs and CDs. So the problems that we're starting to see in these textbooks, the word problems, are really they're first culturally diverse problems. They're problems that are relating to like social media, how quickly it can grow, and things that are going to be engaging to the students. So it's really exciting to have the opportunity to look at these curriculums. And again, it's not even the curriculum, it's the resources, right? Because the curriculum is driven by the state, and these are the resources that we have. I really got into both Envision and McGraw-Hill Reveal because I was very passionate about both of them. And they both have excellent pieces. But the Envision, and I'm not sure if the lower grades would agree to this, but the Envision can be very language-based, and the word problems can be very challenging for students to understand, and I don't know that that would be me personally, just my experience, and I keep using but I have, this is just giving my experience as we've worked on it as a team. It's just I feel like the word problems would have been too overwhelming for the whole population, and we're really looking for something that is going to hit, what's the right word I'm looking for? Support all learners, right? So the Envision, I think, was just a little bit, I don't know that we'd be able to hit all the learners with that. So both products have formative assessments built in, tons of problems, tons of like pre-assessments, post-assessments, additional, more than you can even imagine. But as we look at Reveal, which I think is sort of what we're heading towards, what I really noticed, so the more we dig into it, the more we can see, but some of the things that I've discovered this past week is that we have, not only do we have, the other goal of this is not only is our curriculum aligned, but are we using the same materials in each class? Because as you know, at the high school, there could be 5 different teachers teaching geometry, a bunch of different teachers, and so we had a meeting today, and what we decided was that somebody may choose to use the PowerPoints directly from the program, but other people may want to make their own slides. But the idea is that we're all going to use the same materials, which through COVID, we sort of all just got away and we were just trying to just get by. So we're going to get back to that. But what also is nice is that as we see more and more students being out for different reasons, we not only do we have PowerPoints that we can use, it also has answer keys, so if students are out, they can get their class notes. There's so many different problems. There's videos that go along with things, so it's an easy to use program. Envision can be a little clunky, so so that's where we're at, and along with Reveal comes Alex, which I'm not as proficient. She's very proficient with her IXL. We just started using.
I was like, Alex.
Yeah, I was like, what? She's doing really good. All those words. We just started with Alex, I think, two weeks ago, and it's very similar to IXL, but I don't think it's as powerful as what we were reporting. We haven't had a lot of opportunity to explore it, but what happens is the students come in and they take a knowledge-based test, which is similar to what they must do with IXL. They come in and it puts them at a certain, it has all the concepts and skills that they're supposed to know from a class, and if they get if they're able to earn 100%, they call it a pie, like if they get 100% of the piece of the pie, then they'll be asked more challenging problems. So you may be in Algebra 2, but you may be starting to do some pre-calculus stuff if you're moving on in your advanced. So it's a great diagnostic tool for the students to see, because it's something, they're in high school, they can see it, they can go home and work on things. I had one student say, I just worked they didn't work all weekend, but they went home and they really wanted to improve their scores. So it's definitely a great tool. So I think whether we go with Alex or we go with IXL, that's another product I think that's been a long time coming for us, especially at the high school, just being able to help kids and have it adaptive based on their ability to complete math problems. So I think it's very exciting times at the high school in math, and looking forward to moving forward with everything.
Yeah, if I could just add on to that. So Alex is a product that is really owned by McGraw-Hill, and it's something that they've promoted. So since we were doing Reveal, which is the curriculum from McGraw-Hill, we started using Alex, and we got some training from one of their reps. But as we start to look at some of the other curriculum and talking with the middle school, IXL is starting to look like the more promising product for several reasons. One, there's some vertical alignment with the middle school and the high school, and that's a good thing. We want to see the middle school, the 8th graders coming up with a very similar experience, so the transition is pretty seamless. But the other thing is that IXL also has ELA at the high school level as well as math, whereas Alex is only math. So there's also a cost benefit for using IXL as well. So it does look like we're moving in the direction of IXL at the high school as well, but we still need to really explore that more.
And just to add on to that, Bob, too, is we also use, we talked about this in our meeting, we also use Delta Math. I'm not sure if your children have had experience with that. And the students, we're hoping that we can still, I don't know if we'll still be able to use it, but the students tend to like Delta Math because they can, it gives them videos. If they can't figure out a problem, it gives them a video. They can watch a video, and then they can try another problem. And there's, again, a ton of different problems, and it aligns up with the math standards. And it's still a great tool that we use. It just doesn't do a diagnostics, and it doesn't say to a student, well, you need more work with this, so go practice these problems. It's more teacher-driven.
And we could look at the course sequence at the high school. It hasn't changed too much over the years. It's been pretty much typically students in 9th grade start with Algebra 1, and that could be at a CP1 level or at an honors level, depending on where the students are at coming out of 8th grade. So this was created years ago. It hasn't changed. It's changed a little bit over the years, but for the most part, don't think of this as a very rigid pathway, like they can only go in one direction with the flow chart. There's definitely latitude for students to jump from, a higher block to a lower block or vice versa. So the idea, though, is that the typical sequence is Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. They typically a student will take a semester off, either 10th grade or 11th grade. But some students take math every semester if that's really what they want to do. So some students do that, and they end up taking AP Calculus by junior year. So, that's for some students, and it's not for some other students. So I have several students last year that I taught my AP Calculus class, and now they are my AP Statistics class. So so we have lots of options for students to move through the different levels. That's pretty much the sequence. We have these electives. FST is called function, statistics, and trigonometry. These are for students who don't feel that going on to pre-calculus and then calculus is necessarily the best option for them, but they do want to get that math foundation as they enter college. So many students choose to do the function, statistics, and trigonometry. Prob and Stats is another course that we offer. We have electives, personal finance, building and protecting wealth. AP Computer Science, it falls into the math department, and I teach that as well. So lots of electives here, and we're hoping over the years that we can, continue to add to that a little bit.
If you're looking for this flowchart, it's on the program of studies on the high school website.
I just want to add one more thing, and I think this is a question that comes up a lot, is that even if you enter high school taking Algebra 1, CP1, you can still get to calculus. If you can get there. So I think people are afraid that if they really want to take calculus, they can't. But if you take 2 classes a full year of math each year, you can still get to calculus. So I just think that's important.
So we're in a really exciting time in Holliston. So we have been lucky enough to have recently a strategic plan. We've had an equity audit. We are going to be getting NEASC results back in February, I think. Principal list, NEASC results back in February? January, I'm sorry. So all of those things are going to make an impact on what decisions and what math looks like in Holliston. So that's why, we are looking at resources here that we can use that can easily adapt to the levels that we decide, looking at all those other different things in play. We are looking for now is, this is a public comment part. We're going to follow the school committee guidelines. We're going to have, we have a chair over here with a microphone. So we're right here at the end. Okay, we're next to Bob. Thank you. Vanna, sorry. If you can come up, just state your name, your address, and you'll have 2 minutes to make any comment. Please realize that this is not a question and answer. It's just to hear public comment. We are going to then be looking at the recording to see patterns. What's doing. But before we get to that, please make sure if you have questions about the presentation tonight, this is going to be posted tomorrow, contact myself or James via email. Please make sure if you have not, please take the survey no later than Tuesday, December 19th. If you click on where it says survey, you can access the link. All right? So we can just come up in an orderly fashion. Come on down. We don't bite.
Yes, I'll start.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Martha DeVoe. My 2 children are graduates of the Holliston school system. I live at 35 Robin Hill Road in Holliston. One question I have on the survey is, it says at the top of the survey, what are the ages of your current students? Is this survey open to all people in town, or is it only to parents of current students?
Yes, you can. That's a good point, but you have to check something. So
It says other, which I almost checked off, but it says at the very top, current students.
Yes.
So the reason we did that is so we could determine which school you were
Yes.
commenting on
Yes.
and kind of narrow down your response.
I'm sorry. Do we have another?
There's an other.
Yeah. Please check other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you that from
Yes.
other people reading
Thank you.
it, they may feel that they preemptively could not respond,
Thank
which is a
you.
concern.
Okay.
We can-
Number 2,
Yes.
I am thrilled to see the curriculum. One of the concerns I have on the curriculum, particularly at the high school, is staffing. And as Ms. Cannoni knows quite well, there are years when people's enrollment in certain classes drop classes, so that pre-calc student or that calc student who took it in junior year ended up having to do independent study for AP statistics her senior year. That's not supportive to students who are on a growth pattern at the high school. So that's a concern for me.
Okay.
I'm just curious, I think AP Statistics has been offered for the last 7 or 8 years. So
Well,
we're talking, how long ago are we talking?
2020.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020.
yeah.
Wasn't
But we
the
had
best.
AP Statistics in 2020.
Yeah, but it wasn't offered because the teacher retired and the other teacher went to Hopkinton. So there wasn't anybody who had been through AP camp.
Bob, you and I can talk. But
Yeah.
anything that's brought up, right? We're going to get some
Yeah, so these-
responses back out to you. So I will work, James will work, whoever, right? One of us will work with them and get some information back out.
Yeah, and I think
after the break.
this is all great, and I
Yeah.
love the idea of alignment. I really am supportive of that because
Yeah.
that hasn't always been the student experience in the school system. So when there's an alignment, I think that's fabulous, but I also think there needs to be a commitment to the offerings because with the math curriculum in particular, you almost have to plan out where you need to be. And when kids are going to colleges, there are certain things that they have to have in their check boxes to make certain decisions for classes that they, or majors that they want. So that really needs to be kind of understood very early in the process, otherwise people end up preemptively out of it. So I think that's the piece that I would really argue, particularly coming out of the COVID years. There's a real commitment to looking at that, to supporting the students. So that's my stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. I'm Patty Barabo, 41 Temmie Road. I have 3 boys in the schools, middle school, and 2 in the high school. And again, it's just a concern at the middle school in terms of the level of the rigor. I know a student who was a very bright student, but at the middle school felt like they weren't provided with the opportunities that they needed to get where they wanted to be in high school. They felt like other children who were taking classes through Russian school, other outside programs, were not necessarily as smarter than him, but had more resources available to them. And it took this child a lot of time to figure out exactly, and a lot of hard work to figure out exactly where to get where they want to be, and really had to fight for that. It just didn't feel like it was easy. And he understands nothing's easy, but just felt like he felt like he was fighting versus getting support along the way. And I think that's at varying levels of learning. I have different learners at different levels, and I think kind of goes across the board to all of them. So meeting everyone at different levels, no matter where they're at, and it's not one easy fit for them. Thank you.
Everybody that's making comments, can I ask a favor of you? Can you please, I'm sorry, where did the other person? Oh, you're over there. Yeah, if you can email me more details about what you're talking about, that would be helpful. That'd be great. Thank you. Next. And that goes for everybody that's going to make comments, please. Feel free to reach out.
Hi, I'm Jess Galzo, 25 Alberta Lane. My children are younger and just starting to come up through the schools. So I have a pre-K who goes to less beginnings, but then a first grader and a third grader. My third grader is in one of the pilot classes for iReady. So before I came here, I asked her how she felt about the program because they just started it. And she said she absolutely loved iReady, and she's a math kid. She said that the best part about it is that when she finishes her work early, she can go on the computer piece about it and keep doing math problems. So it keeps her engaged, whereas in the past, she would be bored, she'd get distracted, she'd start chatting with friends and that sort of stuff. So having an additional component has been really nice for her. And I've also found that she seems more engaged in general in math, whereas before she'd be like, I'm bored, I don't like math anymore. But she wasn't getting challenged, and iReady seems to be doing that where Envision hasn't. My first grader, who's on the Envision program, she is just starting to read, and the large amount of language in Envision is challenging for her because she's not as far along as her sister was at that point, and I see her struggling with the reading piece of it to get to the math piece of it. Even though she may understand the numbers, she can't get past the language to get there. So that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. So you are seeing what they are seeing.
right
Yes.
on.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's awesome feedback, thank you.
Ben Martin, 44 Birchwood Road. I've got a 8th grader and a 6th grader. And more just a general comment is through the middle school, we were a little bit surprised by the whole algebra and 8th grade stuff. And I feel like just a feedback for the middle school, if we could have a little bit more feedback on what math was expected when through the middle school process to make sure that we're online. I think we just needed a tiny bit of extra help that was able to give to kind of catch up.
Can you clarify, so do you mean expectations of each grade,
Expectations,
or what
like,
are you referring to?
yeah, like as a parent, like what math should I expect my kids to
Okay.
know at the time?
Got it.
And sort of kind of the basis, just so I could judge and kind of just not be surprised.
One thing that will definitely help you, and let me speak for everybody here, because we're going through the math curriculum review process, we did not want to make any of these teachers or all of our math teachers go through mapping curriculum to redo it again with a new resource. So what is going to happen in the future, just so you know, once we pick, and it's approved and everything, the stage 1 will be documented and available for every grade in math and on the website. So that will be eventually coming, but yes, I hear you, so thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to explain why you don't have it right now, because we're in the midst of changing.
And for my kids, they're already past the point,
Yep.
that particular point in the
Yep.
stuff in high school. The curriculum on the high school website seems pretty clear.
Okay.
It was just like the younger grades maybe could be a little helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go.
I'm Catherine Savard. I have a seventh grader, a fifth grader, and a third grader. My seventh grader does not go to Rams, so I don't know the math curriculum there very well. But I know I'm not supposed to ask about leveling, but I think it's on a lot of people's minds. It's definitely on a lot of conversations that are happening. And so I'm not asking you to respond to it now, but you said you were going to watch the videos and look for themes, so I was afraid not to say it because I was afraid it wasn't going to be one of the themes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But one of the things that I am worried about and thinking about is, well, a couple things. One is the sort of the gates to get into the honors level and what that looks like. So that's sort of one. And then two is, since the de-leveling of seventh grade a couple years ago, what assessments have been done to see what effect that had on high school? What numbers do we have? What does it look like? What effect has that change had before we make another change, if we make another change? And then part of all of that is I'm concerned about staying competitive with surrounding towns that still level in seventh grade and what that looks like. And I'm also concerned about the financial impact of what it could mean if we de-level. Like, de-leveling works if you have very small classrooms and a lot of not one-to-one, but very, very small working groups, and really, like, that's all, like, money, right? Like, we would need so many more math teachers to make it work, make sure people aren't slipping through cracks, make sure kids are getting what they need at different levels, and how would we pay for that? To, where we know that funding is always an issue, but we would have to have more teachers hired at Rams, at Miller, if that's going to work, and how would we make that work? So I just want to make sure those are themes that are in
Absolutely. And I'm going to make a comment for all of you, please. There is a question on the survey. Please make sure to fill out that asks about questions that you have about leveling. One of the things that we need to do to go to your point is we can't just jump into something. We need to make a thoughtful research-based data analysis, right, before we go into it. But we also need to provide information to all of you so you can grapple with it too. So we really need you to identify what areas you want answered, and you already gave us some, right? So we want people to be very thoughtful about adding others of what areas are you questioning about leveling. It impacts, there are just a couple things. We were talking, James, Casey, and I were having a conversation today. Leveling it's not just about that. In schools, it impacts schedules, how we differentiate, diversity, equity, inclusion, staffing, tracking, entry points to classes, communication of stakeholders around class expectations, and it goes on and on and on, right? So we want to hear from you. What more information do you need? So you can give informed decision about what you're thinking. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Chris Barabo, 41 Temme Road. I want to follow on to your comment. So I'm very concerned about this concept of leveling. To be fair to your point, I want to understand more about why we're considering this. Some of the issues you just listed about class schedules, timing, it feels like those are real problems that need to be solved, but leveling doesn't feel like the right answer. So I'm a software executive in the industry. The most important skills that our kids need to know, math, science, STEM, leveling essentially gives those students who want to excel and want to exceed, takes away those opportunities. So I'm sure there are some very real problems that we're trying to solve. Let's not create some new ones to solve other problems that can be solved different ways. So I'd love to learn more about like why are we even having this conversation about leveling, and maybe find some other ways to solve those problems rather than hindering the students that are good and really want to excel in math and science. Those are the skills our students need. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think I might have confused you a little bit. I didn't mean that those were problems created by leveling. In the conversation about leveling, we have to have conversations about all those different things. Because if you choose to level or not level, it impacts all of those other things.
Sure.
So that's what I meant, and I'm sorry for miscommunicating.
No, it makes sense. I just think if we can understand more about like why are we even considering this, there may be alternatives to solve that problem rather than taking away opportunities for students that want to work hard, that want to get ahead and are able to.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? You're saying you don't want to de-level?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
The beginning confused me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the students that have the abilities, that want to, succeed, that want to do more, they should have those learning opportunities. It doesn't hurt the students who aren't as advanced as long as they have classes that are right for them. I think putting the students that are a little bit further ahead, that want to challenge themselves, they should have those opportunities. That's the way the world works. Students, people, employees that want to get ahead, they can do that, and it's not taking away something from anybody else. I feel like it would just be taking away opportunities from those students who want to succeed and have the ability. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Carrie Marsh, and I live at 182 Highland Street. I'm going to kind of piggyback on what they're talking about. Doing some research, studies show interest in STEM classes are developed by the age of 11, so going back earlier than middle school. And I want to know from the district, what are we doing to support females in STEM? Especially because also studies show that it flattens out and actually goes down in middle school. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Are we not responding?
Yeah, we're not responding.
I so wanted to respond.
No, we will though. I mean, we'll talk and we definitely will share. Just not tonight, unfortunately, because we would be here like way past midnight. So sorry.
Hi, I'm Beth Leach. I live at 10 Mill Street. I have a third grader, first grader, and a preschooler. And one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the enrichment seems to just be on the computer later, and I'm curious how all the different programs kind of differentiate through the main program versus do the regular lesson, and then if you fly through, go do computer work that can enrich or meet you where you're at. So I just want to make sure all the programs can really differentiate.
I can't answer that right now, Joe.
Oh.
You're allowed to, no. Maybe like a really quick.
Go for it. And if Bob wants to comment, then go for it.
So the
All
way-
hands off.
The way
Go for it.
the math programs are, like the two competitive math programs, they open up with like rich discourse, so they have a low threshold, high ceiling type problems, and kids dive in. And then the problems after, so you're working with it, you're in the muck, you're working with the teacher, you're practicing, and then the problems after that are the practice problems, they're all scaffolded. So you have your entry level to help those learners who are struggling to get the basics that they need for the math standards. And then you have that enrichment piece in the extend, so that's it's all built in. It's really nice.
But it's not on the computer, correct?
It's not on the computer.
Yeah,
it's all in the
hands-on.
classroom practice, hands-on. Like,
Awesome.
It's really nice.
And there's manipulatives in like all
There's
of this still,
manipulatives.
too.
Yes.
Thanks.
So we're going to give
Various games,
Mr. Tippin an opportunity then to address. So go ahead.
About the encouraging females to take on STEM, and not last school year, but the school year prior, Holliston was given an award, I think through Girls Who Code, or it was an award because we had a very high percentage of girls taking AP Computer Science and Computer Science Principles, which I teach, but also Computer Science A. So I just wanted to put it out there that, not that, this past year we didn't have as many. So, it's certainly room for improvement, but yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We need to encourage that.
And coming in March at Placentino and Miller, we're going to have a math STEM night, a family math STEM night. So, sorry, I can't help myself. I'm all excited. So just going to throw that in there, that there's a nice event that I'm going to make sure to do. I'm going to switch sides. Pie day. Hopefully.
I'm switching sides.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Switching sides.
You put your parent hat on.
Can we do that?
I didn't wear my badge, so.
You needed a hat.
Take the bag off.
Flip.
Ann Canoni, 1135 Highland Street. And I really liked what Kathy said, and everybody else is talking about, because I've been on the committee, I've been doing a lot of research as far as de-leveling, leveling, what works, what doesn't work. And I also have a daughter who's in fourth grade who is a math person, not because of me necessarily, more of her father, he's an engineer. But I do have concerns with the de-leveling at the seventh grade. I also teach high school, which I can just talk a little bit about that if I'm not overstepping, if I can add a little bit into that. When you talk about the research of de-leveling, and I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but I think what Kathy said is that it takes a lot of, and on the committee we've talked about, it takes a lot of resources. It takes small class size. It takes professional development. I know Amanda Bigelow said, who's on the school committee, she's a math teacher, if she had a de-level, she doesn't know if she could do it. It's hard. It's hard work. Even when you have level classes, it's hard to reach everybody. But I did a lot of research before our last math curriculum meeting, and there's really no conclusive evidence that says either way works. If you look at Cambridge is going through things right now, there's studies out in California, and what a lot of the studies are showing that is it's that, okay, maybe tracking and leveling isn't the best, but is de-leveling, if it's not done right, better for students either. And I think we really have to think about that, and we have to think about the opportunities that our students have. And is it Mr. Babineau? Okay. What he said is that if students are more passionate about a subject and they really want to engage in it, and why not give them those opportunities? And if Ms. Marsh said that if the kids are developing before seventh grade, and I'm also going to put the elephant in the room out there too, is like, we don't have a full algebra class in middle school, and we can't get there unless we level. And I think this has been a hot topic in Holliston forever. So I just really think that we really need to rethink what we're doing, why we're doing it, and look at the studies and make sure we put supports in place, so if we decide to level, that students have outside opportunities. And I think that's what Cambridge is doing. I think there's something to do, last I read, they were doing, everybody can take algebra, but they're having opportunities for the students to take summer courses or things like that. So I think no matter what we do, whichever direction we go in, we definitely have to have the supports in place and understand that it is going to take resources. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah.
I wish I prepared something. I actually wish my 11th grade son came to speak. He has a ton to say on the subject, but I didn't. Anyway, the mental health aspect of this, of de-leveling, I think is huge. Just to share a little bit, my child, now that he's in the appropriately challenged class, is a different kid than he was 2-3 months ago, 2-3 years ago. His entire, he's really been struggling. He's just being at the right level with academic peers where he's feeling like he's challenged. I mean, that in itself is the mental health aspect has made a huge change.
I have two other comments that are related and quick. The first thing is I grew up in California. I have stuff outlined. This whole thing where it's like it's broken down by semesters throughout the math for high school. I would love to hear more about that, if there's something about that, because it is different from what I expect and different from what I'm comparing to. So I don't have a good basis for understanding. That might be related to the other important thing is math skill is not a fixed thing, that some kids, they get to 14, their brain just goes up and they can do something they couldn't do when they were 12. And so the pathways for correcting and changing over time are pretty important. But maybe that's part of why that semester by semester changes is possible. Anyway, I'd just be very curious to hear more about how that structure works, because it seems different from what I see compared to other places.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello, Michelle DeRosario, 169 Mohawk Path. I have a sixth grader, and I think I heard somebody say that leveled math instruction was offered in 7th grade, but you have one level now for all 7th graders. And I wanted to know, why did you decide that? And if you decide to stick with leveling for 8th grade, would you ever reconsider leveled math instruction for 7th graders? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Margot Lisi. I live at 483 Fisk, but I also work here in the high school. I have a 3rd grader and a 5th grader. And while I'm sure both my 3rd grader and 5th grader would love to continue with leveling so that they could, get where they want to go, I also worry about some of the people who don't have the same resources that we do, and looking at what we're doing to help those people who are given a little bit of an unequal footing in this game, and how to give them those opportunities to get there. Because I think kind of some of the things we're hearing is that some people maybe weren't ready at 12. And I'm not advocating against leveling. I, for many reasons, enjoyed it. But I want to make sure that those pathways are open and that we're putting our resources at all levels to help the kids who are struggling, because it can be for any of a number of reasons that, when they're course corrected, they can get there. And so that we have that opportunity for everybody.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, go. You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? No problem. My name is Tom Wensink. I have a 7th grader and a 4th grader. I've also been a high school math teacher for 26 years. And one of the things that we have noticed recently with the rise of outside math programs is that it's created an enormous equity issue, which leveling helps with. For our younger for our middle school students, where I teach, in the grades that we do not have levels, a significant number of our families, I teach at a private school, will go to outside math programs because they have the resources to do that, and those that do end up with far more advantages later on than those that do not. So I'm sure you have all encountered this before, and it's on your minds. I just wanted to know you you to know that it's on at least some parents' minds as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah DeVoe, 35 Robin Hill Road. I'm a graduate of the Holliston Public Schools. I guess I wasn't prepared. I came home from work today, which I'm a middle school science teacher in Mansfield, so I definitely see some of this. I graduated with a degree in the health and life sciences, and I definitely wouldn't have done that had it not been for the leveling that I experienced and the ability to pursue the classes that were interesting to me. I ended up, don't even know how many AP classes I took, but they were mainly in the math and sciences, a little bit of diversity among the languages. I took a history AP class, but without being able to do that, I don't know if I would have been able to have the success I saw in college. I know that the ALEX program you talked about is frequently used in college mathematics classes, so I had many homeworks in ALEX growing up. I now use IXL in my science classes as a teacher, so see that my students use the Savas Envision program. And I noticed that even within the science classes, my classes in science aren't leveled. We do have leveled math 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at my school that I teach at. And I see that having the differentiation and having the teachers are better able to support the students when they're in the classes and they're more alike. And that's one thing that, I have really big class sizes at my school. In a large class, it's very hard to manage and differentiate I have 30 students, for my 30 students and make sure I'm meeting every single one of their goals. And when you have a class of students who are more alike, you're able to kind of meet the students where you're at as a teacher, I feel like. So that's something that making sure that the load on the teacher isn't too much by asking the teacher to look at 30 different students and get them, or Holliston has smaller class sizes, get them where they need to be. And I remember even fighting, I'm gonna say this for myself, I fought Mrs. Conahan to be put into honors English in 9th grade. And Mrs. Conahan said I was on the cusp and I could go either way. And if I hadn't pushed for the honors,
This is being recorded,
she worked with me and let me have the opportunity, even though, she's like, you might struggle. I had that opportunity, and then come to high school, I was able to, prove myself, push myself, and, having those chances to change, making sure that our kids can. But I started with the differentiation in the 7th grade, and I had differentiated both math and science throughout my career in the Holliston Public Schools. And my sister is similar to me. We're both math science people. She's now in her senior year of an chemical engineering degree. But if we hadn't had the higher math science, we probably wouldn't have been able to, in college, meet what we needed. Especially, I flew through chemistry in college, and that's a tribute to Mrs. Bodmer and Mrs. Rivera and the chemistry I got here at Holliston Public Schools. So
here's our women in STEM.
Yeah,
a real life example. Yay.
So yeah, I just that's the perspective I can give as a little bit of both as a student who lived it and then as a teacher who sees it too. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have time for one more? Come on down.
Ashley McGrath, I live at 570 Norfolk Street. I also have been a high school math teacher for over 20 years. I teach AP Calc, but I also teach some of the lowest level high school math students as well for the past 15 years. And I worry, yes, I definitely want for leveling to have those students who don't have the financial means to take Russian School of Math to be able to reach those honors courses, but I also worry about the emotional well-being if you were to de-level of those weaker students in 8th grade. I think it would be really hard to be the weakest student of a class of 20 or 25. Holliston has larger classes. We're not one of those rich towns like Wellesley. I don't think we can compare ourselves to those, so I worry about that.
Thank you very much. We are now going to give you guys an exercise. We're asking you to please make sure to fill out the survey if you have not. We're going to send it out tomorrow. But Mr. Levasseur, can you just explain how we divided these so we understand?
There's some questions along the back. There's there's 4 over here and there's the same 4 over there. There's a total of 8 sheets. If you have anything you want more information on, I can't remember all I can't remember what's written on each of them. But if you go up there, there's some markers, and if you have stuff you want us to like look into more, if you have questions or comments about our current curriculum, about potential curricula, I think there's a question back there about leveling or identifying if you have questions about leveling. That's all going to be taken into consideration along with the video that we're going to watch and also the survey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.